Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
Hi, my name is Brittany, and we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Good job with that, Brittany. I was wondering if you were going to do that. I thought you might because
Yep.
you do know a little bit of ASL. Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to discuss the Marvel Cinematic Universe miniseries Echo. But before I get Brittany's thoughts on the series, I'm going to hit you with some Echo facts. Let's get into it right now. Echo was the first Marvel Studios television release to debut on Hulu. It was also on Disney Plus, and is also the first to receive a TVMA rating, which we will talk about a lot. I'm going to venture a guess. It's part of Phase 5. It's the 10th TV series in the MCU, and it's the first also to appear under the Marvel Spotlight banner, which we will talk about that a little more in just a second. Release date was January 9th, 2024. They did a binge drop, also a first for the MCU. All 5 episodes dropped on January 9th on Hulu and Disney Plus. And then let's get to the cast. The cast features Alaqua Cox, Chaske Spencer, Tantoo Cardinal, Devery Jacobs, Zahn McClarnon, Cody Lightning, Graham Greene, Darnell Besaw, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Charlie Cox. Brittany, what are your thoughts on Echo?
I actually really enjoyed it. I think, uh, and we'll obviously talk about this a little bit more, but with the final episode kind of felt maybe a little jarred
Mhm.
to some degree. I think it might have been just kind of rushed, quickly put together sort of situation. I do know that originally this show was going to be either 6 or more episodes, but then because of writers, because of some things that happened behind the scenes, it got cut down to 5 episodes. So that might attribute as to why the final episode may not have been as good as it could have been. But overall, I actually really enjoyed this series. It was interesting to see more of Maya's background and then how she's having to kind of jump in between 2 worlds, if you will, because that is something that her father says in the show. So
Mhm.
overall, I really enjoyed it, considering that it did bring back one of my favorite characters in Marvel. Well, now MCU, because everything that was previously Marvel. That was Netflix. So we're talking like Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, the Defenders, even all that's canon now, and a lot of that has to do with what was going on in this show. So I'm actually really excited to see a more kind of like gritty show. This is the first of being part of Marvel's Spotlight, which is more down to earth or ground. You can elaborate more on that, Justin. But
Yeah.
for what it was, the limited series that it was, I really enjoyed it. It was very interesting to get the background of a quote unquote hero, I guess you could say, with ties to her Native American heritage. And so all of that was really fascinating. I really enjoyed every aspect of this, and the fact that she Alaqua is a real I guess you could say disabled woman who
Mhm.
is an amputee and then who also is deaf. All of that just tied into this whole thing, which was really fascinating. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I really enjoyed the series also. Like you, I feel like it felt kind of rushed. The ending was I felt like the pacing was really well done. I mean, the first episode's kind of weird, and we'll get into that. And the last episode's also kind of, you kind of have a resolution of the story. The show I think does a good job because it kind of serves as a bridge to the original Daredevil series was on Netflix, and also to Hawkeye, of course, and then you know, also it bridges to the new Daredevil series, Daredevil Born Again, which will come out in I think 2025. So I think it did a good job of playing its part. However, you're right. The fact that they made a big deal about how it was the first show to drop under the Marvel Spotlight banner, and the way the Spotlight banner was described is like, oh, these like they kind of made it sound like it's like more for standalone, these kind of gritty street based characters, which Maya Lopez is a street based character, but the show, the first episode is almost like a previously on it kind of episode. It's like the longest episode of the series. You're
Yeah.
going back to you're kind of rehashing everything that happened in Hawkeye that had to deal with Maya.
Mhm.
You're throwing in, Daredevil, which the fight scene was awesome. That was a really cool fight.
Oh, yeah.
And you're throwing in her explaining her past to Kingpin and, like, what happened at the end of Hawkeye where, spoiler alert, she shoots, Kingpin in the face in the Hawkeye finale, and, of course, he survives, as we learn later on in this series. From that perspective, I thought it was kinda strange, the whole Marvel Spotlight thing and how they made a big deal about, "Oh, it's gonna be kinda standalone-ish, and you don't need to watch anything before it." It's like, well, then you open this series and I guess they weren't lying, but then the first most of it is a rehash of what happened in previous shows, and series. So, I don't know. What was your perspective on that, Brittany?
So I do definitely agree with parts of what you just said, just because it's supposed to be a standalone character that or story that doesn't have any weight in like the bigger plot line that is like MCU Avengers type status, right?
Right.
What would have been, I guess, Kang, which I'm sure either they're going to continue with a different character actor rather, or they're just going to pivot and go a completely different direction. Doesn't matter. Maya's story is not going to have any weight whatsoever in that big sort of plot line. So I think that's probably where they're trying to, show these other characters because again, with Daredevil Born Again or
Mhm.
Born Again, Reborn, whatever it's called,
Born Again. Yeah, Born Again.
Born Again, it's not going to carry weight in the bigger MCU like the team ups or those kind of things. Now, it is a little weird with Maya because of the fact that she was introduced in Hawkeye, a couple of years ago, but to me, it still makes sense. It is a little it's a little weird, but I
Yeah.
think because of what we got, be it a mini series or a limited series, who knows if they'll come with like a season 2
Mhm.
or not. I think her story, should it continue, is just gonna stay wherever she is. I'm not gonna spoil anything right now. I'm gonna give a quick shout out to the out in the chat, Nick and Claire all the way in the UK joining us for today's episode. They said they're just gonna pop in for the first part, before sensing a
Fair.
spoiler.
Fair.
Fair. I'm not going to divulge too much
Mhm.
because Nick and Claire are here. They did watch the first episode, and yeah. So that being said, I think if her story continues, I think it might just continue in Oklahoma, not so much back in New York, where she previously had been, grew up. All the events of Hawkeye took place, of course. So yeah, I think that's kind of what it is. Same thing would go for Daredevil, or probably with like Blade, or these other things that are going to be more mature audience
Mhm.
rated, right? They're not going to have any sort of role to play in the bigger MCU plot.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think that, like, it's all intertwined in Marvel. It's all interconnected. So, for example, you have these street level characters, but Spider-Man is a street level character and he's the biggest character in Marvel. And
It's also on loan from Sony.
well, yeah, but I mean, like, you know, as much as Kingpin is a Daredevil villain, he's also a big villain for Spider-Man. And so there's that part of it. The fact that all these, I mean, in a way you could say, yeah, they have these like street stories, but again, Maya was introduced in Hawkeye. Hawkeye is one of the original Avengers. So obviously he's a key character in the whole, saga, whether it's the Infinity Saga, the Multiverse Saga, like that's a key part of it. So I think they're trying to put stuff in boxes just for like marketing purposes and to like make people feel like, oh, you don't have to do all this homework. You can just jump in, pop in. And you know what? A lot of that stuff, if you want to, you can do that anyway. Like
Yeah.
they do a pretty good job of explaining stuff. If you've never seen any of these movies or shows and you jump in, you can pick it up pretty quick. And also, they have the Marvel Legends thing, which is on YouTube and on Disney Plus, like these little 10-minute like vignettes about the characters that kind of get you caught up. So you can just watch that, not necessarily have to watch hours of movies and shows to be caught up. So I think the purpose is that is more for marketing, which gets me to my next thing, which is the TVMA rating. This show was very much more bloody than, bloodier than other MCU shows on Disney for sure. However, I do think that the TVMA thing was a gimmick, was a marketing gimmick.
Hmm.
Not to the level of like what they did with the Marvels, which the final trailer for the Marvels was borderline like false advertising, where they're like
Clickbait.
where they're like trying to tell you like, oh, an Avenger is going to return, and like they kind of hint that it might be Steve Rogers or Tony Stark, and it's like it's not going to be either one of those guys, and it wasn't one of those guys. Spoiler alert.
Spoilers, y'all, in
We're
case
not
you
gonna
haven't
spoil the
seen
whole
it.
movie, but yeah, but so that was like kind of borderline false advertising. This show wasn't false advertising, but to me, the TVMA stuff was a small ingredient in the overall, recipe of the show. What do you think about that, Brittany?
I'm fine with it, just because how often do you see, like,
Yeah,
bloody fights in like Avengers team ups or their own solo movies? You don't. The answer is you don't. So this is still like on par with, like I said, with that of like Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, all those other Marvel installments that were not deemed canon up until recently. So I think kind of leveling it out and being on par with those other shows was fine by me. I mean, it wasn't necessarily as like foul languaged, as I
right.
kind of anticipated, because those other shows absolutely do have foul language. But I think just for graphic violence, because that's what it said every single time you watched an episode, and it gave you that disclaimer that viewer discretion was advised because of the graphic violent nature of the story.
Right.
So it's fine. I mean, I don't have any qualms with it whatsoever. It at least gave you the heads up, and did show blood, on the face, blood on the knuckles, blood on the floor. I mean, yeah, it was pretty bloody.
Yeah. No, I mean it was definitely bloodier, and some of the characters who were killed off throughout, were kind of after these characters die, they definitely show the camera on them, whereas in the past they wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Especially there's a death that happens in the skating rink later on in the series. Um,
Spoilers, Nick and Claire.
yeah, but but yeah, all in all, to me, it felt like it was just a bloodier show. Like it still felt like a Disney Plus show, but just had more blood, right?
But again, consider Disney, consider their
Right,
usual
right, right,
audience. Yeah,
right.
this is kinda like dipping their toe into the water of, like, we're gonna be a little bit more violent than normal,
Yeah,
so, like, it's fine. I don't expect them to go full-fledged, like, gore graphic, Game of Thrones style
yeah.
blood massacre, you know what I'm saying? It's just
And by the
it's fine for
way,
what it was.
yeah, I mean, by the way, like, I don't think everything has to be TVMA, and just because something's TVMA doesn't make it better, in my opinion. Like, you can do a PG-13 or even a G-rated story. If you do it well, you can do it better than just because something's TVMA and they might cuss and might, break somebody's bones or show blood. That doesn't necessarily make the story better. You've gotta
I
put
don't
the work
know.
in either way. No, I think you
I don't
do
know. They
because
were they were cussing in ASL, dude. Like that's pretty intense. That's pretty intense.
No, I know. I understand that part. What I'm saying is, like, it's just not, like I think a lot of people are hung up on, like, oh, the TVMA thing, like, "Oh, that's gonna make it better," and it's like, that doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna be better, right? That's just
Just wait until Daredevil comes back, okay? It's gonna warrant that
but,
MA.
see,
Like,
I think Daredevil's gonna be more like this series than like the Netflix series. That's just
not from what I've read or and heard about it. So hopefully we'll just have to wait and see, of course,
yeah,
but
we'll see.
we'll see.
Um,
We do have a question in the
yep.
chat, Justin, from Nick and Claire. Do you think they're going the old Netflix route of standalone, smaller character stories? And what do you think about them dropping the whole season and not just one episode per week?
Okay, so the first thing, the smaller character stories, I think that's kinda like what the Spotlight banner is supposed
Yeah,
to be about.
yeah.
So, I do think that we will see that. I don't know that, like I think we'll get, like, maybe 1 Spotlight story a year, maybe, because their goal is to put less is more is kind of the new strategy, I think.
Well, and I also wonder how difficult it would become to have every single MCU character have a bigger role to play in the bigger storyline. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like,
right,
what is it that Maya could do in the bigger storyline? What is it going to be like with Daredevil, with Blade, and you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
they always have to have a bigger purpose than just maybe their what's going on in their own little world. I mean, yes, Spider-Man may be like a more grounded character, but like that decision was already made a long time ago to put him in the team ups and such, right?
Right.
So I think it's going to start becoming more convoluted to make sure that every single character that we are ever introduced to is going to have a bigger role to play in in the upcoming big
Well,
bad. You know what I'm saying?
right, but they may just keep it separate, right? So
Yeah.
if Kang is the multiversal big bad going forward, then you'll have characters who would deal with Kang, but then you can also, in a way, you could make Kingpin kind of like the street level Thanos, where Daredevil and Punisher and Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and even Spider-Man, because where Peter
They're all
Parker
kind of based
left
out of New
off.
York. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, where Peter Parker left off, and even Hawkeye. If Hawkeye
Yeah.
can kind of be pulled
That's
into
fair.
both kind of storylines.
That's fair.
Where Peter Parker left off, no one knows he's Peter Parker, so it's kind of starting over. It's almost like Spider-Man born again, in a lot of ways
Yeah.
too. So
That's fair.
I definitely could see that, kind of having separate, big bads for the different, whether it's street level or, world ending level, which I think that makes sense because I think people kind of get tired of the world ending stuff. If the world's almost always ending, it's
Just end
too
already,
much.
damn it.
Well, no, too much of anything is not good,
Yeah,
right?
that's fair.
So
That's
there's
fair.
like moderation in everything in life, but with these
Yeah.
stories, especially because people are fatigued, worn down by them, and I think going focus on these characters having their own main villain to take down, I think is a way to go, and it makes sense to me. So
Okay. That's fair.
yeah,
So part 2 of that question
right.
of Nick and Claire's question. What do you think about them dropping the whole season and not just 1 episode per week?
So I prefer the weekly release. If you've watched or listened to this podcast over the years, I've been a champion of that. And I think honestly it just works better financially it works better for these companies because if the show does well, if you have a 5 episode, you have 5 weeks where people are talking about the show and doing podcasts like this and breaking it down. But to me, I think the reason why they did this with this 5 episodes drop, binge drop, I think they wanted to just kinda get it out there. And that's unfortunate because I think it actually is pretty good. Like, I
Yeah.
think this show I don't know that we're gonna do rankings today of all the Disney Plus shows, but, like, to me, it's like right in the middle of the pack. Like, it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad at all. In fact, I think there's some stuff on this show that I really enjoyed. I watched the series twice,
Mhm.
and, I think that on the rewatch, I think I enjoyed it more than the first watch. So, um,
I
yeah,
think we I think we could agree that this show was, like, way better than Secret Invasion. Way
oh,
better.
yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. I think it's better than Moon Knight. Honestly, as much as I love Captain America, like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like this show, to me, I enjoyed this show more than the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which or they're like on the same kind of level, which
Mm.
there's no way if you told me 2 years ago, 3 years ago that I would say that, I'd be like, well, first off, who's Echo? Because I don't know who Echo is. So that kind of shows you that I thought this was actually a quality show, but unfortunately, I don't think that Disney, thought that people were going to think it's a quality show. You know what I'm saying? I think they thought like we need to get this out of here and we're
Yeah.
just going to binge drop it. And if people like it, cool. If they don't, we're moving on and they're going to move on too. So what do you think, Brittany?
Yeah, well, Yesenia in the chat, thanks for joining us, Yesenia. She wants you to explain yourself, sir. She's just kinda
Okay.
taken
Yeah.
aback by
Happy
everything
to.
that you said.
No,
She's like,
I guess
"Wow,
about
why?"
why I liked Echo. I thought the cast was great. And we'll get into that a little bit more. I thought like the sign language part of it, the American Sign Language stuff, I thought that was really well done.
I
And
think it might have been about something else that you had said, not so much about Echo,
oh,
but,
about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
probably
Oh,
that, Yesenia.
to me, that's been a disappointing show since it came out.
The
I like
plot
the characters. Yeah.
the plot of the whatever the
The
flag
storyline. Yeah. The Flag
yeah, that how
Smashers. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the Flag
Yeah.
Smashers, that was just a weird
You
pivot. It
had,
was just eh.
yeah.
We're not gonna talk about that here. We're not gonna talk about
No,
here. If I wanna
but,
check
but
that
to
out, we
explain,
do have pods about that.
no, but to explain real quickly, Sam Wilson's great. Becoming Captain America, love Bucky being a part of it. Like, there's a lot of great
Ah.
stuff.
Oh,
Oh, Moon Knight.
it's about Echo
Yeah,
over Moon
so
Knight.
Moon Knight, I just I don't know. It just
Hater.
did not
Hater.
it, it wasn't terrible, but it just wasn't like it wasn't my thing. It wasn't like
I challenge you to rewatch the whole season again and then come back and say if you still feel the same or not. Because you rewatched Echo, granted it's only 5 episodes, but you
Yeah.
rewatched it and you said you enjoyed it more on the
Right,
second one. So
but I
I
liked
would
it the
challenge you
first
to
time.
okay, but I still am gonna challenge you to do the same for Moon Knight. Give it a fair shot. Give it a fair shot.
Okay, we'll see. I'm not agreeing to anything, but, I'm
You
sure at
you said
some
that
point
about Harry Potter. You said that about Harry Potter, and look, what we did. We did pods on Harry Potter. Listen to
well,
me.
okay. Did we do pods about Moon Knight also?
Yes.
I think we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, we just did like a overall review, but anyway.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, that
Yeah.
being said,
Let
um,
let's talk about the ASL stuff, because I know that's something that
yes.
you thought was, I mean, I thought it was very cool the way they did it, the way that I thought it was, like, really cool how you could, like, kinda see how she sees the world from her perspective, and, like,
Yeah.
obviously she can't hear, but, like, there's certain things, like, the way that they use text messaging as a way to communicate, the way they use interpreters, the way Kingpin uses,
Spoiler.
yeah,
Spoiler.
spoiler, Kingpin uses, some special contact lenses, which I thought were very cool to, be able to communicate with Maya at a certain point. What did
Talk
you
about
think about,
advanced technology. Yeah.
yeah, what did you think about all the ASL stuff?
I think Yesenia just said it extremely well here in the chat. They did a good job at showcasing the ASL, but not being distracting. I
Yeah,
mean, and let's be real, this is Maya's only form of communication, like real, true face to face communication. Because she cannot hear. Um, you know, how much lip reading she may or may not be able to do. I don't think that was entirely determined, but I think with showcasing her perspective and her view of the world, because in some instances you're seeing and hearing the action that's going on while she's present, but then
right.
it kind of like camera kind of turns as if it's from her eyes, and then the music and everything else just kind of slowly fades to nothing,
Mhm.
and that's what when you really get inside her head, if you will, right? I think that was all extremely well done with like the cinematography and with um how they just decided to write out these scenes with her. And for me with the ASL, now granted, I took ASL as a young kid. I have like rudimentary basics kind of that I retained, and I am not fluent at all. Um, but it was fun to, I say fun, but like it was great to see that be central to the story,
Mhm.
because once again, this is the only way that Maya can speak with people, uh, be it with her mother who is also deaf, or with her father or her extended family who are hearing, but they still speak and sign at the same time. So that for me was extremely cool to see, and it seems like in this community here in Tamaha, Oklahoma, that you know whether or not it was because of Maya, or whether just in the community itself there are a lot of deaf individuals. The community, for the most part, I felt like, or at least what we saw, they all knew how to sign, unless it was just
Yeah,
like I said, really close knit family, and they all signed because of Maya's mother and then Maya herself, right? So, um, and the very fact that these actors, not only had to go through lessons to portray as if they can sign, but they also did that with the cast and crew as a whole for, um oh my god, I just, like, spaced on how to pronounce her name again.
Alaqua Cox.
Alaqua.
Yeah,
When she came onto set, like, feeling more welcomed, and, like, everyone took the time to be able to at least try to communicate with her, I think is extremely, extremely well thought out of, and I really enjoyed it. I really honestly enjoyed it.
yeah, yeah. Yesenia has a good point to bring up in the chat.
Yep.
So she talks about how it's a spoiler for episode 4, but the fact that Kingpin didn't learn sign language for her, even though, like,
Okay.
she's her, he's her uncle, and
Yeah.
he's so important, she's so important to him. Although, you know what, I think if you kind of watch, like I said, I watched it again. He did know some things, but
But
it's
not
it was
enough to be fluent to converse
right.
with her without the help of an
But
interpreter.
but I think it might have been more of like, I think he knew how to do it, but it's more of like a power dynamic. Like he had
Could be.
interpreters that they killed one of the interpreters, which that was like, wow, that was pretty like not that it was
Yeah.
super graphic, but it's like, man, this woman like just was doing her job, and then you
Well,
no
you
longer have
know
a
that
use
he
for
went
her.
through, like, 3 of them, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That
But
tells
there
you what he did.
Yeah, but there are moments where he's signing things and you can tell he knows.
A
So
couple
it's
of times, yeah.
yes, but I thought the contact lenses were a very cool idea to show, you know, she can see what he's saying and it creates these like virtual arms and hands that like are making the signs. I thought that was like really, really well done and very
AI
cool
is
and
taking over, y'all.
right. But it was just one contact lens, which I thought was
Well,
unique.
so, Nick and Claire, if y'all are still here, we're obviously gonna, really get more into the characters, into the plot, into these episodes. So if y'all wanna maybe exit and come back for the replay, now's the time to do so. But while we're on that subject, Justin, of Kingpin, at the end of Hawkeye, we see Maya with Kingpin, and she has her gun. She shoots him. You hear him fall to the ground. And you presume she killed him. She thought she killed him. She leaves New York, comes to Oklahoma. Extremely long story short, Kingpin lives. And we don't get an explanation like at all as to how he survived. Like he got shot in the freaking eye, right? And he's wearing the patch. It seems like his
Right,
eyeball is still intact,
right,
like it wasn't removed. It wasn't like Odin, Odin had, or
right.
Thor, when they had their eye completely like just messed up and they have to wear the patch thing over it. Like that bothered me because it was just kind of glossed over of, yeah, you thought you killed me in New York. You made that very clear. And that was it. Like, how did he survive?
Yeah. No, they didn't really explain it, and you're right, it was strange because you're thinking like, well, maybe she just shot really close to his eye, and it was just his, like, his cheek was really
It
damaged, but
I mean, it
yeah,
was it was close, like, close range or point
yeah.
blank range, and it's just like, Yesenia says, "Marvel, nobody dies." They actually do.
Tony
Um,
Stark,
Tony
he's not
Tar it's Tony Stark,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, he dies.
But no,
Um,
I mean, I get her point.
yeah, yeah,
It's very
but,
well
like
yeah.
but the lack of explanation was just like, "Okay, we're just supposed to accept this?"
Mm.
But I guess I always go back to Star Wars with Palpatine, guy was dead for 40 years,
He
really
returned.
wasn't, and
He's
he returned.
back.
Yeah, so unless, like Kingpin is just invincible,
Mm.
he's got some sort of power stone that we're not aware of that, like, prevents him from dying, because dude is a monster, like, he is a big, big dude. Obviously, we see him become physical, we see him with his rage and what have you, but it's just, like, point blank range, like, you get shot, like, right in the eye or, like, underneath the eye, but the eye is still intact and whatever, and then that's the curious thing with the contact lens is that he puts the contact in her left eye,
Right.
which is the eye that got messed up for him.
For him.
So
Right.
I thought that was really interesting
Mhm.
how that was decided upon. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. There's no explanation really for how he's survived or how he's able to keep the eye and seemingly can see with the eye that was potentially shot out. So,
Yeah.
yeah, very
Yeah.
interesting that part of it. And yeah, I wonder like if maybe originally in the plan of this show Kingpin wasn't supposed to be as big of a character as he became, and then they kind of had to like force him to be a bigger part of it. So
Mhm.
I don't know, because, like, in the finale, you kinda get that feeling like, so Kingpin was the big bad, but I don't know.
Was he
It just
though?
yeah, it just was
It it
so
it
kinda
it
rushed
didn't
end of it, and
it didn't fizzle out the way that, or it wasn't as fleshed out as I had kind of
yeah,
anticipated. But one character I was very interested in, and I didn't think we were gonna get to see him as early as we did, was Matt Murdock, aka
yeah,
Daredevil. Like,
yeah,
I mean, in that opening, I say opening, but in the first episode with the major fight scene,
mhm,
was like, "Okay, well, cool." Like, they're doing a big fight scene, whatever, we get to see her kick ass and, like, take names, what have you, and then, like, enter Daredevil. I'm like, "Oh, like, this is happening right now." Like,
Yeah.
I saw clips of the fight scene floating around on social media, of course, like, a couple weeks ago, but I wasn't anticipating seeing him appear in that first episode that quickly,
Mhm.
and not hating it, absolutely loved it. Love seeing Charlie Cox, back on the screen, and it was really cool to see that, but I kinda wish we got a little bit more of him, but then at the same time, this isn't about him, it's about,
Yeah.
Maya Lopez, but yeah, I really enjoyed seeing him
I thought
again.
the action scene was great. I thought that
So
was
good,
such a good
so
I'm
good.
like, I was watching it when I watched it rewatched it yesterday, I was like, "Man, this is a scene I'm probably gonna watch several times, like,
It's
on
so
YouTube or
well
whatever,
done.
because it's really well done."
It is.
Um,
I mean, and the fact that, like, I know Charlie Cox for sure does a lot of his own fighting scenes, like, I
yeah.
guess there's stunt doubles across the board, but, like, he does train, like, he does do the martial arts, and he does do a lot of the physical stuff where I think the same is for Alaqua, granted, she is also an amputee, and so, like, getting to see how she uses her prosthetic leg
Mhm.
in that scene with him, like, how she kinda, like, picked it up and held it and then, like, swung around and kicked him, and it was really cool to see the different fighting styles between the 2.
Yeah, no, it was awesome, and, in that first fight scene is it before or after she encounters I think it's before she encounters Daredevil, where she's fighting this guy, and she gets him into, like, a guillotine, like, choke,
Uh-huh.
and the captioning says, "2
Spine.
hearts beating,
Yeah.
2 hearts beating," and then all of a sudden, she just snaps his neck, you hear a crack,
Well,
and
it
then it
said that
says
the spine shattered.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
and then it says
So
1 heartbeat, so it was
and
like,
then you could
wow,
just
that
hear the
was
one heartbeat. Yeah,
yeah,
that was
that
really,
was
really cool, which is
yeah,
very similar to that of Daredevil,
yeah,
Maya Lopez is deaf. Matt Murdock is blind, but
yeah,
he is able to manipulate his senses in order to see things around him, and of course, his hearing is heightened, and that's how he's able to know when someone's nearby. Is the same thing, the heartbeat, which is very different, obviously, for Maya, but you can feel the heartbeat when you're in close proximity, right? That same thing with like the drums beating. She may
mhm,
not be able to hear the drums, but she could feel the beat of the drums, right? So same idea.
yeah, yeah, no, that was, very well done. I thought all the action throughout
Oh
the
yeah,
series was really cool.
for
The
sure.
skating rink or, fight later on where she has to use, like, skee balls and,
That was so
arcade
cool.
game stuff, like
She
that
ripped the
the
guns
guns, yeah,
and used the cables as like a freaking, like Indiana Jones, with a
right,
freaking whip.
whips, yeah,
That was awesome. Very
yeah,
creative ways of fighting, and even when she had to sort of manufacture this like laser type gun thing out of roller skate materials and equipment in order to try to get out of the locked room that she was being held in at the skate rink. I was like, man, this girl is smart. She is really intelligent. Like that is super cool.
yeah. I thought the cast was really strong in this whole series, but I wanna
Mhm.
give a special shout out to little Maya. I think that girl is cute as hell. She is
She's she's actually Aliqua's little cousin,
That's what I was gonna tell you. So I was like, they did a good job of finding someone who
Chaske.
looks like a very, younger version of Alaqua Cox, and Darnell Beesaw is her second cousin, so that makes
Yep.
sense, and
Yep.
she does a great job. I mean, you know, the
Yeah.
in the episode 4 with the ice cream truck, like or the
Poor
ice cream
baby.
guy, vendor guy, where he's, like, giving her a hard time, and then
Yeah.
Kingpin just goes and just beats into a bloody pulp, and then it's funny because she sees it happening, and Kingpin's, like, worried that, "Oh, like, I didn't want you to see that," and then she walks up, she gives the guy a couple of kicks to the side, like, while he's down. It, like, kinda shows, like, what she becomes is, like, one of, Kingpin's, key, members of his tracksuit mafia group.
Still such a stupid name.
Yeah.
Uh, it was stupid then, it's stupid now. Yeah, no, she did such a great job because obviously she was also, I think, because they're calling back to Hawkeye, so that's the first time that we really got to see her in
Yeah.
Hawkeye, especially when she's at the dojo. She's about to whoop some little boy's ass. Even though she's got the prosthetic, but she in real life is not deaf. She's not an amputee.
Mhm.
She, whether she already knew how to sign because of, again, with Alaqua and as far as we know, Alaqua is like the only one in her family that was born deaf, but we're just going out on a limb here. But regardless, she learned how to sign. She learned how to uh, portray Maya Lopez. And I think that's really sweet that they were able to keep it all in the family, because it's just so sweet. Like this,
Yeah.
I loved it. She is adorable. Protect her at all costs, people. She is the sweetest.
Yeah. No doubt. Before we kind of go through each episode and kind of talk about some things we like from each episode, I wanted to ask you about kind of we learn what the Echo name is for Maya Lopez, why she's called Echo, and we
Mhm.
have these generation of women that she has this connection with. Brittany, you want to like kind of walk us through that, and what did you think about that kind of explanation? Because each episode, there's 5 episodes, they're all named after a member of her family.
Yeah.
Um, so what'd you think about the whole, how the her powers are kinda echo from the past of her family and ancestors?
That I think was extremely well thought out, because if there's one thing I know about Native American history, is that they do very much believe that power is passed on from generation to generation. And in Maya's case, the very first episode was called Chafa, which is the first Choctaw woman
Mhm,
to ever exist, and she led her people. And what was really interesting about all this is that, for one, the first Choctaw woman, uh, at the very beginning, because they look very different. Like, they lived in the cave, it seemed. There was like this illuminating pool of, I guess, some sort of liquid water, what have you. And Chafa, drank from it and was able to assume some sort of powers. And through that, she's able to, again, lead her people. But through her line, she's passed on that, like, power to women all the way down to Maya. And so that was really interesting to see, because you hear stories of, like, the ancestors and um, things within the Native Americans' beliefs, but to actually see it kind of portray on the screen was really cool.
mhm.
So from the first Choctaw woman down to the next episode, which dealt with a woman that was, I say it was more or less like lacrosse is what they were playing
Yeah, it was
against
like a
this.
stickball was kinda it
Yeah,
was a
but it kind of,
Choctaw stickball. It had a different name, but yeah,
yeah, but it kind of gave me like lacrosse vibes, just
yeah,
with the sort of
very much, yeah.
playing tools that they were using. And they each had, like, a skill or a gift that would all be enveloped in Maya. So, like, the Choctaw woman was, I guess you could say, just a natural born leader. The next one with the game was more of a strategist. The next one, which was a force to be reckoned with on her own. Which, that episode, Justin, the third episode, I thought was really cleverly done, with the kind of black and white silent film sort of
Right.
vibe, which was really cool. Where this woman who has skills, right? She can shoot, she can throw, she can, protect. She wants to join her father and this, sort of police
Mhm,
group called the Light Horsemen, in order to protect the community. And she's not granted that, because she's a woman, but she held her own. She's cunning, like, she's,
mhm,
so again, we're seeing glimpse of, like, Maya in women's of past. And then it comes down to that of her mother who was deemed as a healer,
mhm.
from what her grandmother said. And we actually got to see that more so in the last episodes, where her mother would just put her two fingers together, one on top of each other, making a cross, and heal like a little woodpecker that we saw from the very first episode with Chafa. So the fact that, like, history, ancestry, it all comes down the pipe, if you will.
Yeah.
And once again, Maya is all these things. She's just been so consumed with anger and rage and violence, that she never considered those other attributes of her family, and that she is a legacy. She can be different. She can be better, and she can protect her family, her loved ones, her community. And I think that was just extremely well done.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that was really well planned out, and I think again, like I watched the episodes like as they came out. I think I did like two the first day, and then kind of two the next day, then the finale. But when I rewatched it, I kind of really it made more sense, honestly. Like it kind of I saw how they plotted everything out. Also the importance of like birds in the to those
In their
people.
culture.
Yeah, in
Mhm.
their culture, like because there were other times in the episodes where there was a bird would appear and you're like they showed it and you're like, okay, that's cool. But like there was a reason because
Yeah.
birds were there to warn you about enemies approaching. So
Yes.
that's what they believed. And so
Mhm.
I thought like all that stuff worked really well. I thought it
Oh,
was,
yeah.
like, kind of like that part was, like, airtight. To me, it was just it felt the show felt kinda rushed. Like, I think it should have been at least 6 episodes. I think it needed 1 more to kinda, like, let it
Flesh out
breathe.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree with that, but given what we were given,
yeah.
it they made it work to the best of their ability, and you and I talked about this offline, but the fact that they actually, I say they, the production team actually involved the Choctaw Nation to make
Mhm.
sure that everything was as accurate as possible, because in this day and age, you really don't wanna misrepresent any sort of, culture or people or whatever, and so the fact that they took the time to really sit down and talk with the council or the elders or whomever it may be, in order to make sure that the stories were right, or the apparel was right, and so on and so forth. That was what I think I really appreciated most out of this whole series. I mean, the ASL, of course, is great. We're highlighting a hero who has a disability, and she kicks ass, and it's awesome. But then you're also representing a, a nation that a lot of people just kind of toss aside.
Yeah. Yeah, representation is important. I think they did a really good job of showing a different, different way of life that maybe people don't understand as well. So I thought that
Yeah.
was very well done.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you about some of the cast members just real quick. So, Devery Jacobs plays Bonnie, and Bonnie
Mhm.
is, Maya's cousin. And you also have Biscuits, who's also her cousin. I was trying to put the family together. Are Bonnie and Biscuits, are they brother sister? It was hard to like understand the family relation.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's because we didn't get to know who their parents are,
right.
if they are for sure siblings or not. I don't think that's the case, because I feel like if Biscuits was the first one to see Maya when he came to the house, I think he would have ran and told his sister, like, "Hey, by the way, our
Right.
cousin is back." But I think they're all just cousins. They're
Just
not
cousins.
like
Okay.
cousins, but two of them happen to be siblings. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, because I was a little confused about that as well, especially after the first episode where, of course, Maya, her mother, gets hit by a truck. She unfortunately dies. We see that shard of glass that, in Maya's leg, which is explains her need for her prosthetic leg. But I was very confused about the relationship between Shula and Scully,
Mhm.
because at the beginning episode, it's like, "Oh, they're together, they're great," what have you. I didn't make the connection that they were the parents of Maya's mother, because then in later episodes, it's like they're not together anymore,
Right.
because Chula has, like, this chip on her shoulder about Maya's father, because
It's yeah.
apparently the Lopez boys bring nothing but, like, pain and trouble and
Right.
all that jazz.
Because Scully, they never identify him as grandpa or grandfather.
Right.
So
Right.
it's just like he was a guy who was
In
with
the family.
Tula, with the
The
grandmother, but
grandmother.
not anymore. So that's yeah, it was to me the family all the family dynamics were kind of like they were all related, they all knew her,
Yeah.
but
It
it was a
didn't
strange yeah.
it was a strange kinda thing, because you would think that because Chula is Maya's mother's mother, then that would make Scully Maya's mother's father. May or may not be the case because it
Right.
seemed at the hospital scene where the two are talking with Maya's father that, Chula was like, "I'll never forgive you for this. It's your fault that my daughter is dead." Not saying our daughter, you know what I'm saying? But it's
Yeah.
my daughter.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Not that not that it's really important. It was just kind of weird to
Yeah, it's
follow.
yeah, it's one of those things where you're, like, thinking about it. You're like, "Okay, so then you have Uncle Henry, but then Henry doesn't have kids, so he's not the father of Bonnie or, Biscuits." So that part of it too.
So then he is Maya's father's brother because he's a Lopez. He's
Yep,
Henry,
that's right. Henry Black Crow
Black
Lopez,
Crow Lopez. So, okay, so they're brothers. And see, I didn't get that from, like, the first meeting, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like
right.
she said, "Hi, Uncle Henry," or anything like that. It was just like, "Henry." You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It was kinda strange,
and
and then with
Henry
Bon and then
yeah,
with Bonnie, yeah, I don't know who her parents are. It seems like maybe Chula was the one who's been raising her, because we didn't see other other family members.
yeah.
Who knows?
And also with Bonnie, so she's played by Devery Jacobs, who you may go, "Oh, I've heard that name." Well, yeah,
Yep.
she was, the voice of Cohorty in,
Mhm.
What If season 2. So she had
Yes.
back-to-back MCU projects with different characters. So
Yeah.
that's also kind of a unique first.
Yeah.
What did you think about, because we're told how important the friendship is between Bonnie and uh Maya, and like
Yeah.
they're super close as kids, and they're cousins, but then Maya wants them to be sisters, but they're super close. But we don't really see a ton of them together throughout the 5 episodes. They're only around each other a couple of times, and their interactions are very brief. What did you think about that part of, to
Yeah.
me, that was like that was one of those things where it's like, like you're supposed to show, not tell, and they tell us a lot, but they don't really show us much of like what these people actually mean to each other. What'd you think about that?
So, it wasn't just that issue with between Maya and Bonnie, it was that between Maya and, like, everyone back home in Oklahoma, right? The fact that Chula kept saying, "Oh, Maya, she's just like her father." You haven't seen her in 20 years. Like, how do you
Yeah,
know what she's
right.
like? Like, why would you think the worst of that when she's also your daughter's child? I mean, wouldn't you hope that Maya would be like your daughter, not so much her father? Like, her father left Oklahoma because he found a job in New York or whatever. Like, what else was he going to do? You, Chula, didn't want to be around him. Ergo, you didn't wanna be around your granddaughter, the last living thing of your daughter. Like, that
Right.
blew my mind. So, yeah, I mean, definitely did not get the vibe of, Maya really being close with Bonnie. I mean, Bonnie did have that conversation with Maya when they were, kidnapped, where it's like, "I reached out to you, I called, I texted, you never I texted, I emailed, you never responded. Like you can't say we drifted apart. You just didn't try," which is echoing, no pun intended, which is echoing what conversation Maya had with Chula when she finally sees her grandmother and is sharing about the visions that she's seeing. And then the grandmother saying, my heart, I was so heartbroken. I couldn't stand to be, around you basically. And my, it's like, you made a choice. Like, you chose yourself over me when I needed you. So yeah, there's a lot of like trauma within
Yeah.
this family, of course, but I didn't get that sense of we're so super tight because the fact that it kept saying over and over again, "It's been 20 years, it's been 20 years." So that puts Maya at like 27, 28 at this time of when she
Right.
comes back to Oklahoma. So I just think that's really messed up, like, especially in a culture where family is, like, so significant,
Mhm.
and then, like, a bad thing happened to one person, and then, like, the husband's to blame for it, and then when he leaves because he's gotta go provide for his child, like, that's it? Ugh, just that really annoyed me.
Yeah, and so you're like the family, like they're close, but it's almost like they're close because they all live in this very small town, which Tamaha, Oklahoma is a real place. And
It
it's only a
is.
population like 178 people, which is very small.
Crazy.
So I kind of doubt that a place that small would have a skating rink or anything. Because I
It does
I
not.
come
It does not.
yeah, 'cause I come from a town of 3,800. That's where I was born or where I grew up, and we don't have a ton. Like, couple of stoplights, a Dairy Queen and a Sonic, and that's about it. So, I like,
But
this
y'all had
this
a junior college at least. I
well,
mean,
yeah, no,
Tomahawk,
there's stuff.
like,
Right,
has
but
nothing.
again, like, where I'm from has almost 4,000 people, where Tamaha has 178 according to the 2010 census. They don't even have, like, a recent update of that. So,
That's
but
crazy
what I was
because
saying about the family go ahead.
I was just gonna say my graduating high school class was, like, 365, so it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
that is insane to me.
yeah.
Continue.
My thing about the family is, like, they're close-knit almost solely because they're just close to each other, like, in proximity.
In
Like,
proximity.
because they're all kind of cold to each other throughout the show. Like, it's not like a happy family. I mean, there's some like
Well,
Biscuits obviously is like the heartwarming, like lovable character. He's got his
love
dog
this.
Billy Jack, and but like it as far as like how everyone interacts, they don't interact like their family, or it's more of just like this.
I
I mean,
mean,
like with Henry,
That's
for
because
example.
of that's because of Chula. That's
Yeah,
I
yeah,
100%, like, if there's
yeah,
someone
that's
to
true.
blame, it's gonna have to be her because as, like, let's say, matriarch of the family, she felt what she felt after her daughter died. She said what she said
Yeah,
to her son-in-law. Ergo, she doesn't see or have a relationship with her daughter-in-law, her granddaughter, because she never extended, now, door swings both ways, y'all.
yeah.
But, I mean, at some point, you just gotta, just come to terms with things. It's not anyone's fault other than just if someone did, cut the brakes or whatever, and it's just really unfortunate that it happened. But it all I still feel stems from Chula because she has that chip on her shoulder. Her marriage probably ended because of what had happened with the daughter. She has no relationship whatsoever with Maya and her father when they went to New York. So probably all that she had left was Biscuits and Bonnie, however they may be related to her. I mean,
Mm,
they call her a grandmother. So, I
right.
mean, we just don't know how. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's such a weird dynamic.
And the grandmother is a postal worker who lets Biscuits borrow her
Her
company or
truck.
her truck, which is it's for postal service. The steering wheel's on the right-hand side of the car,
Yeah.
not the left-hand side. So, there's a lot of stuff that was kinda strange about it when you're really thinking about it. One of the
Can
things
I
I thought go ahead.
sorry, real quick. I just because you mentioned the truck, the
Yeah,
exchange between Biscuits and Chula as he's driving down the road after the incidents with Maya and the train and off-roading and how he's just, like, staring at her as he's driving, like, in disbelief. Wonderful.
yeah,
I love that
that
exchange
was
between the 2. So
that was
funny.
well done. Yeah, very well done. Um, one of the plot problems I have with the show is so you have, Henry, who is Uncle Henry, who is he owns the skating rink, but he also has connections to Kingpin, right? Because of the shipping, right? So,
Fisk. Yeah.
um, with that being said, it's kinda weird, like, obviously Kingpin has a he has a shipping location in this very small town, which is, what are the odds? But I mean, that's TV show stuff. I'm not complaining about that. But to me, later on in the series, I think it's actually the finale, when Chula is abducted by Wilson Fisk, Kingpin. How does she not know who he is? Like, when they meet each other up when they meet up and, like, they talk and she's telling him about Maya, and of course, he knows all about Maya because that's his niece, quote, unquote. Um, how does everyone there not know who Wilson Fisk is? Right? Because everyone it
How
kind of
often does Wilson Fisk travel to Tamaha,
well,
Oklahoma?
probably not very often, but everyone in the town, uh, you know, kind of works for him, or it's in a certain
I didn't get that
respect,
vibe.
or because
I didn't get that vibe.
there's not very many people there. So it's like, how
No,
would you not
no.
know?
But Henry had been part of the tracksuit mafia, whatever you call that, up in New York, because when he's having that conversation with Maya,
Mhm.
where she's like, "You left me when I needed you after my father died." He says, I'm sorry." He goes, "I was scared, I was confused, and I left." He's like, so that's how he was involved with Fisk up in New York. It's just that he came back down to Oklahoma. Now, whether it's just coincidence
Mhm.
that was the case, or Fisk had said, okay, if you leave, because he did threaten him, but you're still going to manage the shipping business, whatever, out of Oklahoma. That way I can keep tabs on you.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
don't necessarily think that everyone in town knows who Wilson Fisk is. I think it's just Henry because of the ties that he had in New York. And then he came back to Oklahoma.
Okay. That's fair. That's a good explanation. To me, I feel like everyone would know
Nah,
to a certain degree
no,
because there's
I,
only
I
so many
don't.
people. Yeah.
And then for Chula, for that matter, if she doesn't really have a good relationship with her family,
Mhm.
including Henry, because he's a Lopez, then she wouldn't know who Wilson Fisk
Mhm.
is because she doesn't talk to Henry. He's a Lopez. They bring trouble.
Speaking of the part where she gets abducted, which I know we're skipping around here, but isn't it kind of strange how when he sees her, she's in her postal worker outfit, she's at work, and then whenever she's revealed to be kidnapped, she's in
She's
a
in a
black
completely different
dress
outfit. Yeah.
because she's going to the powwow. So it's like
Mhm.
I feel like we missed some stuff that were cut out in between, or there's something that happened that we did not get to see.
Yeah, because she's got, like, the earrings, like,
Yeah,
the
she's all
handmade
made up and
earrings.
everything.
She's
Yeah,
kinda made up. Yeah,
yeah,
it's I mean, and from what Biscuits was saying, both Chula and Bonnie were supposed to be there hours earlier, and they weren't, so that was concerning. Yeah, I feel like because, again, this should have been a 6-episode run because of writer differences or whatever the case may be behind the scenes, it got cut down to 5. I think that's where we're kinda, like, missing some things because it doesn't give real clear explanation as to why Chula would have been so, like, dressed up as opposed to being in her work uniform when she meets Fisk, and then Fisk is also, like, dressed differently when
mhm,
he sees her at the post office and then when he encounters Maya in the warehouse, so who knows? Who knows?
yeah.
Dramatic effect, I guess.
There you go. So let's start going through the episodes kind of quickly here. Is there anything from episode one you want to highlight that we haven't talked about?
I just think in general, who's keeping up with the house? The Lopez house. That's the house that Maya went back to where,
Mhm.
uh, that's where she and her mother left because they were gonna go to the store. It was rainy. It was, whatever. Who's been keeping up with that house? That's the only thing I'd like to know because if it wasn't, well, no, we kind of have that answer because Scully said that to Maya when he brings her the updated prosthetic leg that she kept the house as is, like a museum, and it's just like it's kinda odd. I mean, given that you feel that the husband, like, did this to your daughter and you will never forgive him and you have no relation whatsoever with your granddaughter, like, why would you go to that extreme? People grieve in very different ways, apparently. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was one thing that was on my mind, but overall, I think with just with the how the town looks, even though we know that these shows are generally filmed in Georgia, just how well, like, they make the town very believable to me.
Yeah.
Even, I know we talked offline about the water tower scene, and I do see where it kind of looked like maybe that wasn't entirely real, but,
Yeah.
I mean, the tower does exist. They just had to
The,
recreate it on the
the top of it.
soundstage,
Yeah.
right, for the close-ups and such,
Yeah.
so that did look a little wonky, but it's still I think it still paid off. It was fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. I wanted to point out just as we're getting through episode one that uh, I really enjoyed the Hawkeye stuff. I know it's all from the Hawkeye series, but I like
Yeah,
the Hawkeye series also. Um,
same.
I thought it was kind of cool that even Hawkeye like signs with her. That's how
Mhm.
he communicates with her. So I thought that was again that was from the Hawkeye show, but I thought that was cool. And I
Yep,
thought the part where she was saying she thinks that Fisk is dead because she shot him at the end of Hawkeye, and she's saying the king is gone. She was like now time to be the
time for a
queen.
queen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's gonna be the queen pin or whatever. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then of course the episode ends with the reveal that Fisk is alive and he's got his eye very much bandaged up. So I thought that was pretty well done. Like, just like,
Minus the explanation of how he
well, yeah,
survived.
how did he keep his eye? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Crazy.
Um, moving on to the second episode, which is titled Lowlack, which is that's again that's the character you mentioned who was participating in the Choctaw stickball game, and she's the one who is one of the characters that Maya draws upon later on when she has full use of her powers.
Yep.
Is there anything about episode 2 you want to touch on?
So episode 2, I think that was mostly about the train
Yeah,
sequence because she
yeah,
reached out to Henry, who works or is affiliated with the Fisk shipping. She wants to recruit him for help, eh, to deal with one of the train cars, and he's like, "I want nothing to do with this. I'm not bringing war to, my loved ones, my family, like, this is on you, basically." And so she takes matter into her own hands. She gets her cousin Biscuits, who's very impressionable,
mhm,
and gets him to follow her as she jumps onto a train. And you think she's going to go into the car to try and steal something because she, is very sneaky about it, has all these gadgets and tools to, you know, be undetected, if you will.
yeah,
But it's not that she is stealing anything from the car. She's planting a bomb in the car because when it arrives in New York and everything's being unloaded, everything's being opened up, what have you. As soon as that one cart or whatever, I don't know what you want to call it, storage is opened, it sets off the bomb, and then it's just like a domino effect. The whole warehouse just goes down. Um, I like the fact that it showed her skills, like how intelligent she is. I can't speak, but that I think that was really cool because you just assume, oh, there's something that she wants to steal. No, she's just like she's taking down the empire. She's trying to take down the empire, which I think was actually really, really cool.
yeah.
Probably not like the best episode, but in light of what the episode is entitled, seeing her ancestor play the game, being strategic, and then you see the same thing with Maya. Like
Mhm.
that was great comparison.
Yeah. The train stuff is some real Fast and Furious kind of action where she falls back on the train from the overpass, and then whenever she jumps from the train car to Biscuit's truck, that's I mean, Vin Diesel definitely's done that a few times. So
It's like, where's Dom Toretto and
yeah,
Letty? Like, good lord.
right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that part of it. Also, Biscuits because he was a part of this mission with Maya, he tears up his grandmother's truck. So he's trying to make some money. So he's gonna pawn off his
PS4.
PS4, right? So PS4, by the way, still a good console, even with the PS5 out. But he's trying to sell it, and he's on the CB whatever radio, like telling people, and that's how Bonnie hears because Bonnie is a paramedic or a firefighter, one of the two, or maybe she's
EMS.
EMS. Okay, so that's how she hears about uh, that Maya is in Tomahawk. So
Yeah, and you would think based on that, she would have had a little bit bigger role to play with
right.
things because you see the difference between the
Yeah,
two cousins who Maya wanted to say, "No, we're sisters."
yeah.
Maya went a completely different path
Mhm.
with, killing people and doing bad things and what have you, whereas her cousin has gone down a path where she's helping people. She's a healer. She's,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, which I thought was interesting.
Thing from episode 2 I wanted to highlight is the fact that Henry he confronts Maya after she uh, you know bombs the shipping center via the train car, and he basically tells her like you're acting like Fisk, like
Mhm.
you're becoming this
Yes.
person that you hate. Yeah, so
Mhm. Yeah.
very very cool stuff. Um, moving on,
Children learn what they see.
that's true. There you go.
Yeah.
Moving on to episode 3, titled Tucklow. Tucklow Brittany is a character you mentioned before. She wanted to be a fighter, like her father, a part of this like kind of group of law enforcement called the Light Horsemen. However, he would not let her, and he says, he tells her that she's a life giver. She's a woman, not a life taker, which is
Mhm.
a man in this time of the world. It's the late 1800s when this is taking place.
Yeah.
She's also one of the ancestors that Maya draws upon in the finale. Um,
Mhm.
kind of going through episode 3. Um, this is the skating rink episode. What did you think about this one?
I thought that was great with the fight sequences, of course,
Yeah,
between, on the skating rink and then, like, I guess they had, like, a glow in the dark sort of, maze type thing
yeah,
where that's really where shit goes down. I was really confused to a degree about the character Vicky.
yeah,
He is the non Native American working in the skating rink. There's a couple of others, but how he had ties to Fisk, or how he's able to know or recognize Maya, that
yeah,
kind of thing. I guess he's also from New York, and maybe he came down with Henry to, you know,
yeah.
do business or something. I mean, those things are not
I
entirely clear.
I think we're led to believe that the word is out of her because she shot Fisk. I think
Uh,
they're made like, hey, like there's a bounty on her head.
okay, that makes more sense.
Everyone in the system's gonna know who she is or what she looks like or something about her. And so I think that's what we're supposed to believe. And then
Okay,
just the
well,
fact that it's a dude named Vicky, very unique. Yeah,
Vicky.
yeah,
Anyway, but yeah, he's the one who puts the call out to dude over at the shipping in New York, where the warehouse blew up. They're gonna come down to Oklahoma. Vicky's thinking, oh, because I've got Maya, I'm gonna, get the reward money, what have you. Things don't go his way, of course, and he's got two women who are with him to help. One kidnap Maya, and then also when Bonnie shows up to talk to Henry about Maya. Yeah, I love how, ASL is used in this instance, to for Henry to warn Bonnie, like, go. Like, he's using his hand, on his side and doing the word go. Um, and Bonnie picks up, doesn't, really say a whole lot. She leaves, but she also gets kidnapped. And yeah, like things ensue. Things ensue. This is the episode where I said Maya makeshifts like a laser gun out of like roller skating parts
yep,
and is able to hog tie one of the women who had suggested we need to hog tie Maya because she was able to break out of her zip ties. And I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, that whole sequence too was really clever, and how Maya is able to like pound the dude through the wall and
yeah,
land on the rink, and it's just like, oh, like this is cool. Like she's a
yeah.
force to be reckoned with. Truly.
All the while, Rob Zombie's Dragula song is playing.
Yes.
So we had a fight scene
Yes.
to a song from 20 plus years ago.
Perfect.
Um, I did like how you said how she burst through the wall, and there's a motto on the wall, "Make America Skate Again." It's skating rink that she burst
But
through
bum.
when she's beating this guy. And
Yeah.
we didn't mention this, but Vicky, he gone. He
He gone
he's brutally murdered.
in a
The
very
camera
bloody
lingers on
fashion.
his yeah, on his bloody face, which was a part of the
Oh,
TVMA, rating.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I think that, I think music was well done
Oh, yeah.
throughout this whole series. There's the part where Zane is the guy from New York, and he's like the lieutenant or whatever of the tracksuit mafia that's there
Yeah.
in, Tomahawk, and they have Henry and Bonnie and, Maya captive. They've got guns pulled on them. All of a sudden, right before they're gonna pull the trigger, he gets a phone call, and Don Henley's New York Minute song is playing, which kind of, appropriate,
Very.
and basically they call off the dogs. And then, later in the episode, uh, Henry explains to Maya, like, there's only one person who could make that call where they wouldn't have killed us, and
Yep.
that was Fisk, and we see that
Yep.
he is very much alive. She learns that he's alive, so
Yep.
and actually he finds her. He's Wilson Fisk makes his way to Tomahawk. So
Mhm.
that was pretty cool stuff. Also, we see in this episode where Scully gives Maya her new prosthetic leg, and it's a golden leg. So with kind of honoring her
Her ancestors.
Choctaw, yeah, history.
Mhm.
Yep. Is there
Yeah, that
anything else
was
you want to highlight?
I think the interactions even between Scully and whoever he's around, like when he's trying to sell, um something from his pawn shop, if you will, to the non-natives, and they're like, "Well, we want our house to be more southwesterny. Do you have any Navajo rugs?" It's like, "I'm sorry, you come to Choctaw Nation asking for Navajo rugs? Are you insane?" But how Biscuits is, kinda helping drive the sale, and it's a team effort. Scully is wonderful. The actor who plays Scully is a Graham, I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Greene, I believe.
Graham Greene.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you offline that there were at least 2 actors that I saw that are from the Twilight series, and he's one of them. A father to one of he played father to the other actor who, in this series is the first Choctaw woman, Chaffa. Her name is Julia Jones. For whatever reason, she's not credited in the first episode,
Mhm.
according to IMDb, which is strange. But he plays her father in the movie Twilight, and of course in Twilight, Native American lore, that the Coolyites. I'm probably butchering that. I apologize to everyone out there, but their history is that they could transform into wolves. So
Okay.
interesting. You know, the histories in that. But anyway, he's hilarious. I think he's wonderful. I think he was also in Dances with Wolves along with the actress who plays Chula. So they played husband and wife in Dances with Wolves, and then they played like a divorced couple in this episode or in this
Okay.
series. So I think they've been around for a long time
Yeah.
and have acted for so long. And I think it was great that they were able to bring them back together for this series.
Very cool. I did not know that.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
So moving on to episode 4, which is titled Tallulah, which is the name of Maya's mother. We flash back to 2008. We see Maya we get the ice cream truck scene or the ice cream vendor who's very rude to her, and he catches a beating for that. I mean, he's still alive if you watch it, but like he is
Is he though?
well, I when I first watched it, I was like, oh, they just killed
Murked
this
him.
guy.
Yeah.
But then like you go back and see he's still breathing. His body is still moving as Maya and Wilson Fisk are walking away from him. So the guy, I guess, survived, but he caught a beating and deservedly so. He's mocking a 6, 7 year old uh, deaf girl.
Who
So
who yeah.
yeah,
He's like, "Use your words." She
yeah,
can't.
right,
God.
right. And it seems like it's someone like it's not like the first time he's ever seen her. You're kind of led to believe that like he has because she asked for something and he's like, we don't have those, and she used sign language.
Well, she pointed to the picture
Oh,
on
okay,
on the
okay,
cart, and he's
okay,
like, "No, we're out." And she's like, "But
okay,
want." And
yeah,
he's like, "No, like what do you want? Use your words." And he's doing
yeah,
this hand motion with like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
talking and yeah, that did not set well with Wilson Fisk. Rightfully so, actually. Now, I don't know if it warrants catching the beating that he did, but Fisk is also a very violent person.
Yeah. But it was cool to see her, like, as a little kid, she sees it, and then instead of, like, being mortified, she goes over there and kicks the guy.
Yeah, because that's what we want for our kids.
I mean, she learned a
Also
lesson. Yeah.
also, why was she with him and not her father? Because her father is still very much alive at this day and age, he didn't
Yeah,
die until she was
I
an
I
adult.
I think you're kinda led to believe that Fisk is picking her up after school,
Yeah.
and her father's busy doing tracksuit mafia stuff. So,
Jeez.
he's on call, I guess. He's working all the time. Yeah.
Listen, for a mob boss or mafia boss of Fisk's nature to actually take the time to say, "Hey, don't worry, I'll take care of your kid, and I'll just make her my daughter/niece and, raise her to be in my own image," is pretty wild.
Yeah. And then
Jeez.
after 2008, we flash forward to 2021 where Kingpin is giving Maya her final lesson, and
That poor
that's
interpreter.
that's when we see the interpreter get killed, and she's wrapped in plastic. Like she walks in a hallway that's covered in plastic, which obviously she had to know something was up. They shoot her
They
with
were
a silencer,
renovating. What are you
right?
talking about?
They shoot her with a silencer. Not that probably Maya could hear it anyway, but they shoot her
No.
with a silencer,
But
wrap her up.
I think she knew something was up when she saw,
Yeah,
like, homeboy
yeah,
bodyguard person follow her out,
yeah.
and yeah,
Walks her out. Yeah.
yeah.
So that kind of a that was definitely like a TVMA moment for the series, I think.
Oh yeah, how much
Uh,
blood there was on the plastic, yeah. But I also like how in that moment with Fisk and Maya, how he's like, "This is your final lesson. Like,
yeah.
we're moving from theory to practicum, and it's we can only trust each other. Exit ASL interpreter. They're having their Sunday dinner. There's wine. There's whatever, whatever. And then when he sees her for the first time at her family home in Oklahoma, he forcefully inserts that contact lens into her eyes so that they can, speak to one another.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, I thought we could have, Sunday dinner like we used to. Here's a bottle of wine, here's dinner." And she's like, "It's Thursday."
Yeah.
So the fact that, his whole final lesson with her was we can only trust each other. He's there in the house. She's like, "I'll open the wine," and she just pours it out. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, she don't trust you, bro. Like, no. And how
But
she was just so open about it too. He's like, where's the whatever the Lafayette or whatever it was called?" And she's like, "I poured it down the drain."
yeah. But she did take the cookies though. He offered her cookies and she took them.
But she didn't eat it.
So,
So, yeah.
yeah.
Also, I'll take wine or cookies. Just
Yeah.
make sure it's not poisoned. That'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah. It's a low bar to clear, but yeah. Um, so basically, Kingpin he wants her to return to NYC with him, and then he tells her that
Yeah.
until she makes the decision, he'll be at the Choctaw Casino. So
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Good point
Yep.
by Yesenia. There is a risk working with Fisk. So
But bum.
nice little motto
There you go.
for Kingpin.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's like, "If you want an empire, I'll give it to you. It's just you have to come back with me to New York."
yeah,
And it's like, yeah, it's that simple, right? And even Henry, he's like, "You can't be that stupid." When she's telling him all this, he's like, "You literally cannot be that stupid that he's actually going to follow through with that." And it's not because Maya is incapable. It's just this is Fisk we're talking about. He manipulates, he does all the things in order to stay on top and keep people under his thumb. And this is no different.
mhm,
Like, who's to say if she were to go with him back to New York that she wouldn't continue doing the things that she was already doing, killing people for him and whatnot, because that's her purpose.
right.
It's crazy.
So later on in this episode, we see that Chula and Maya have the same visions of their ancestors,
Yeah.
and they kind of have them at the same time. It seems like,
Mhm.
and then Henry takes Maya to Chula's house so that they can, talk out their issues. Um,
Yeah.
and Chula tells her about the visions, and then she learns about her mother, about how her mother was a healer. Um,
Mhm.
that's pretty well done as far as how they explain that.
Yeah, there's different aspects again from each woman in their lineage that Maya possesses traits of, right? And because Chula is also part of that lineage, that's why she sees the same visions or dreams or whatever you want to call them as Maya does. She saw them the night that her daughter died. She
Mhm.
saw them more or less the same time that Maya did, but at the powwow. And yeah, like this, there's it's like an alert system of
Yeah.
things that are happening and you need to be prepared for, because shit's about to get real.
So as we're kind of moving forward here, Maya goes to the casino to kill Kingpin. She pulls a gun on him, and then she tells, she basically says like, "Look, you gave me these contacts because you didn't want to learn how to sign." And then he gives her a story about his father because earlier in the episode he talked about how his father died when he was young, and then we
Yep.
learned well his father died at his hands thanks to a
And
ball peen hammer at the age of 12. He
and if
killed
y'all
his
watched Daredevil, y'all would have known this already.
right. So then he offers her the hammer to say, like, use it on
Free
him to kill
me,
him. Yeah,
free me.
which
Yeah.
she does not do.
Mhm.
And then he tells her to, come home with him in the morning, but instead she leaves. And we end the episode with Fisk very mad.
Very mad. Yep, he's on the plane. He gets a phone call from one of his minions that they were tailing her, but they lost sight of her, and clearly she's not coming with him to New York. which leads to a very angry Fisk.
Yes.
End scene.
There we go. On to the finale, titled Maya. Of course, about the main character.
Mhm.
In this, we open with she's Maya as a child before her mother's death. She has a
So cute.
slingshot, and she she shoots a rock at a
Woody
woodpecker.
Woodpecker.
Right. She's not trying to kill the woodpecker. She's just trying to hit it. But of course, she hits it and it's not able to fly. She takes the woodpecker to her mother to see if her mother can help her with it. The
But
mother,
more importantly, she's feeding her mother a lie,
right,
saying like, "Oh,
fell
it
out of a tree. Yeah,
fell. I found him." No, you didn't. Well, I was just trying to see if I could hit him. I wasn't trying to hurt him. You have a damn slingshot and a rock. What other kind of pain were you planning to inflict on, if not that?
exactly. But we
Kids.
see the mother, Tallulah, she heals the bird with her magic touch, and
Yes.
the bird flies again. So,
Eventually will. But yes, more
yes.
importantly, that's where we get the story about birds communicating with the Choctaw and, their significance and whatnot. So in other words, respect wildlife, people. Respect them.
There you go.
They're there for you.
There you go. This episode, that's when we get the abduction when both Chula and Bonnie are taken. So that happens here. We see kind of an Easter egg. We see the Roxxon travel store, which Roxxon is this oil company in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the Marvel Universe. So
I think I missed that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the gas
Oh,
station.
no, Roxanne. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you're
Yeah,
right. I did see
Roxxon.
that.
Yeah,
I did see that. Yeah, when she stops to,
right.
go eat something at the diner, she gets a text message from Biscuits asking about Chula and Bonnie. She races back to Tamaha, is trying to locate her grandmother at her grandmother's house, and then in the back room where her grandmother had been working on an outfit,
A suit. Yeah.
presumably for the powwow, or maybe for Maya, because it's not really clear at that moment. Um, we see that Maya abruptly stops and she's facing none other than her mother. Because in a previous episode, she had faced Chafa, the first Choctaw woman, and these are like the visions that we've been talking about. And she's actually having a full-fledged conversation with her mother in this instance, where her mother's basically telling her about, the ancestors have been there for you. You're in so much pain. Like you are all these things. You're not just an angry, hateful, violent person. Like you're all these things. And I know you've been hurting. And so her mother also like does the same sort of healing gesture on Maya. And um, it's a really sweet scene between the two because, Maya lost her mother so young. And to have to kind of relive that moment with the car accident and what her mother says to her even then, um, is something that Maya needed to hear at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. The powers. What'd you think about how Maya shares the powers with Bonnie and Chula at the end? Is that
That it's kinda like because they're part of that lineage, they're all of the same legacy, what have you, it only would make sense that they all possess that same kind of power to a degree. Sometimes it skips a generation, supposedly. Who knows? Who knows what happens in these histories of their culture? But, yeah, it's just kinda like, I now know how to wield the power because I've unlocked myself, or I got myself out of a trap, like, at the train thing. I was able to use the powers and my hands lit up and, there's no explanation about it whatsoever. So, that part of it was not fleshed out, like, really well. I mean, obviously, you saw Chafa in the beginning when she's drinking the water and then her hands are illuminated. You saw that again with, the next ancestor and so on and so on, but it still wasn't, like, really fleshed out for Maya to that quickly understand and know how to use those powers. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that was a little lackluster.
Yeah.
It was cool because then they're able to, like, fight off, Fisk's minions, which is cool because like, grandma kicking ass too, and Bonnie was kicking ass, so that
Mhm.
was great. It wasn't just solely left to Maya, but, I did enjoy seeing her in her grandmother's,
the suit.
handmade suit,
Yeah.
which is supposed to represent like all the things that her mother had talked about with being a legacy, if you will, and um, really embracing like that of who she is. Now, whether that was just to disguise herself to get into the powwow, or actually to accept this is who I am. Like I don't have to be what Fisk has made me. I am who I am. I am this legacy. I am um, my culture. I am protecting my community, my family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, the suits I think the suits it's supposed to be, like, kinda comic accurate also, apparently. So,
Mm,
they did a way of, giving her the suit, and yeah, it's you kinda like she got her name and her suit at the end of the show, which that's a
yeah,
very familiar trope in these shows, but I think this one
sure.
this one was well done compared to
Mhm,
maybe some other ones in the past.
I agree.
Um, we see Kingpin, he goes to try to hit Maya, but then Maya uses her healing powers on him, and she tells him to let go of his pain and anger,
On his
and
heart and on his
yeah,
mind.
yeah, and, you can see he's, like, freaked out by it, and he leaves not understanding what Maya did to him,
Yeah,
um, which I thought was, kind of interesting way to end this series. I mean, obviously the story is gonna continue in probably
yeah.
in Daredevil. I would imagine that we'll see Maya Lopez in an episode of Daredevil Born Again at some point.
It's possible. And I don't want to like Trump like just skim over the powwow scene because there's some things that happen at the powwow outside
Yeah,
of what's happening with Maya. But while we're on the subject with Kingpin, I think the fact that she learned how to not have to embrace that side of her that he molded her into being, she's saying the same thing to him when she kind of transfers him back to that vision or memory of hearing his mother being beaten by his father, and he's got the same hammer and he's about to, go wail on his father. And she's like, no, like let the hate go, like tune them out. Like, for her to say tune him out, is just kind of interesting as someone who's non-hearing. Um, but I don't think he fully understood the purpose of that, and I don't think he knows quite how to let some of that stuff go,
yeah,
because of who he is and the nature of Wilson Fisk. Always very violent, always quick to, have the upper hand, and so for him to be sort of diminished to a degree, and for her to, like, let him go was also kind of strange to me, instead of, like, keeping him there and getting him arrested, or you know what I'm saying? Because like,
yeah,
he and his Goonies did bad things. They kidnapped
yeah,
people, and then his other goons are at the powwow, setting up as if they're gonna just blow up the whole damn place.
yeah. With a
But
rocket launcher, right?
yeah, with a rocket launcher, and then, like, Henry's there, he's kind of, like, kinda ready to go with the gun. He
Mhm.
he tells Biscuit, like, "Hey, Biscuit, things are gonna go down. Do you have a weapon?" And Biscuit's all like, "No, I got something better than that." And I'm like, "What in the world could Biscuit have?"
Yeah,
A lifted ass
it's a
truck.
monster truck.
It's a
Yeah, monster
monster
truck.
truck. It's
Yeah,
crazy. He goes and rolls over the 2 vans that held all these people that I guess were gonna be, what, assassins or whatever, and just rolls over them. Henry takes out, Zane,
mhm,
at the top of the RV or whatever, and, you know, dies, I guess, but he does shoot the rocket launcher. But,
right.
all that was just kinda like, why? I
Yeah,
guess?
yeah,
I don't know, 'cause I enjoyed seeing, like, the powwow side of things of everyone in their wardrobes and how they entered into to the campgrounds, um, and you mentioned earlier the blend between, like, or not so much blend, but the music, blending of their cultural songs and then, like, just your modern type songs. That was really cool to hear, in those different scenes. But, again, this last episode, it was the shortest episode. It just
yeah,
wasn't completely fleshed out.
yeah. No, I agree with you in that respect. And then the episode ends, and we another kind of Fast and the Furious ending where we have like a barbecue scene. It's a backyard picnic. Maybe it's a barbecue. I'm not sure exactly, but Maya visits her family, and then she rides off. So
Well, she rides off and then she comes back, right?
Well, I mean, but doesn't I mean, she shows up to the picnic or the backyard barbecue. She just like got off her bike. I don't know if they show her get back on the bike or maybe it just
No,
ends
they
where she's with.
don't. It
Okay, okay,
it just ends with her, like, there at the picnic, so
with
it's
her
like maybe
family.
she had intentions of to keep going, keep running
Yeah.
away, and maybe that's her way of saying, like, I'm done running, like, I'm
Okay.
here, I need to stay with my family, I need to protect my family, that again, that legacy lives on in her, um, so I think maybe she's just staying in Tomahawk, Oklahoma at this point.
Yeah, I could see that, or I could see her, continuing on her new path with her new understanding of her powers and her life, and just going
Nah.
from there. No.
I think she's gonna stay in Oklahoma. I mean, she's got no real purpose of going back to New York. She let Fisk go, so, like, she's still gonna pursue him even after she let him go. That's just kinda silly to me, but I think she's found her new purpose, and
Uh-huh.
her reason is to, stay in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well, either way, it's kind of open to interpretation, I think. But you you might be right. You're probably right about this.
Maybe.
Um, let's now. There's a mid credit scene, the final episode, and in the mid credit scene, Fisk is watching. He's watching with great interest a news story about the New York mayoral election and the race, and in the broadcasters are saying, "Oh, we need a real fighter, a real dark horse could win this," and then you could see like the wheels turning
Mhm.
that he's going to run for mayor, and I would assume eventually become the mayor of New York City.
So
What's your take on that?
this is a repeat. This is a again, if you watch Daredevil, you would know that Fisk has already done this already. He in either season 1 or season 2, I can't remember, of Daredevil, he was running for mayor and he had the race fixed to where he was elected, but then it was determined that he fixed the race and therefore he went to jail. So the fact that he's going to try this all over again, and if this is what's going to play out in Daredevil Born Again, I mean, Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, is going to be all over this because it's a story that's already been told once before. And he was well liked because he was just like your regular dude who wasn't corrupted by politics and so quote unquote corrupted. But yeah, I can't believe they're actually going to go with that storyline all over again. I mean,
Show's Born Again, so
well, I mean, it's curious. I'm now really interested to hear what the actual plot line is supposed to be of the new Daredevil series because I don't think there's a way that they could try to um, make it where it's like, oh, well, this is preceding the events of Daredevil,
right.
and it can't because she's encountered Daredevil. He, Kingpin, Fisk, whatever, made that known when she was talking to him at his apartment, saying, like, none of my people have been able to take him head on like you have. So, like, the existence of him is already known, and Kingpin already doesn't like Daredevil for various reasons. So, there's no way you can make that like I don't think you can go and retcon that by any means. So, I don't know, but it's a storyline that it was his storyline already once before in
Right.
Daredevil. So I'm a little confused why they're going that route again.
I'm glad I got your perspective because I've only watched the first like 8 to 10 episodes of Daredevil, the first season. I've never, and I do plan on watching it, finishing it before Born Again comes out. But that
Yeah.
is interesting that they're kind of rehashing a story that was in the Netflix series.
Yeah, I don't understand why because I think the events that like Maya and Daredevil took place supposedly happened like maybe during the blip. So like some people, that were blipped out in New York were not Daredevil or Maya or Kingpin, but yeah, I don't know how they're going to make that work because again, it's a storyline that's already been told once before. So I don't know how the people of New York are going to respond to Wilson Fisk rerunning for mayor of New York. Like that's wild to me.
Interesting. Well, they definitely with this mid credit scene, it definitely points to the Daredevil series. So
Yeah.
that's what is they're looking ahead to. But as far as Marvel, this year's kind of a quieter year than the previous one. You've only got one movie. Deadpool 3 comes out in July,
Yay.
and then you've got some Disney Plus series, but you've got they're mostly animated. You have Agatha Darkhold Diaries, which is coming out at some point this year. You have X-Men 97, which is animated. You have Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, also animated, and Eyes of Wakanda animated.
Mm,
So this Kingpin storyline won't be continued for a couple of years, I would say.
yeah. Yeah.
So Britt, let's get final thoughts on Echo. What did you like in relation to other series, or just kind of like what's your takeaways from this series?
I think this was still a decent start for a standalone character series. I mean, granted, yes, she was introduced to the MCU in Hawkeye, but I think the fact that they decided to carry on with her story and give her like more substance and to show representation on many fronts, of course, with her being deaf, an amputee, also having a Native American background. I think hitting all those points was really really well done. Once again, I love the fact that Disney and Marvel Studios reached out to the Choctaw Nation to make sure that everything was well represented, and I think everything was done extremely well. It wasn't like in poor taste. So yeah, I think Alaqua just like killed it. I love seeing her in action. I definitely love seeing her fight with Charlie Cox. I just realized both of them have the same last name.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that's kind of fun. No relations probably.
That's actually what she said to him when they first met. She said that we have the same last name. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's wonderful. Yeah, so I actually can't wait to see when Assembled comes out for Echo, because I think seeing the behind the scenes stuff of just how they made this whole series, however short it may be, is going to be fascinating to me. I really did enjoy the series for what it was. Um, I wouldn't be mad if they came out with a season two, honestly, even if it's
yeah,
a revisit with Kingpin and he's still pissed and still trying to get to her, or there's another big bad somewhere in Oklahoma. I don't know. I don't know how
yeah.
it might just live and be done, but
Right.
I enjoyed it. I overall really did enjoy it.
I think it's probably done, but I also think that like Marvel's plans, especially with Disney Plus, are very much up in the air.
Mhm.
So it's
It's
not
fair.
clear what they would do with this property. But I enjoyed this series very much. And I think Yesenia has a great kind of like
Yeah,
final thoughts for it.
she does.
She says, interesting series. I don't like binge watching. Would like a weekly release. I enjoyed the character actors surrounding Maya. Wish I had more time with them. I agree. And I
Yeah.
just wish that some of the stuff was more fleshed out. The Bonnie and Maya stuff should have been more important. And I
Yeah.
feel like if you had more
I
time,
yeah.
that would have been. But all in all, I thought it was a cool series. I thought the ASL stuff was really interesting to see, to have that kind of character and to see that perspective. And honestly, like I was like, maybe I should like learn ASL because I thought it was like a kind of a cool like way to communicate with people. So
It is, especially when, you're like me and you don't want other people to know what you're saying,
yeah,
and you don't speak another language fluently. That's just another way of, that's another way of getting your point across. Um, one thing Kate, our friend, she knows ASL to a degree, so, hey,
yeah,
you
that's
might be
cool.
able to pick up some things from her.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Brittany, now that everyone knows what we think about about Echo, about the series, we want to know what you think about it, and how can people let us know what they think about Echo?
Well, just like Nick and Claire did all the way from the UK and Yesenia here, they joined us in the chat. They asked questions, they shared with us their thoughts about Echo, the series, and we talked about a lot of things, y'all. It's not just about the show, but like the different release of all episodes at once. The fact that this is supposed to be the first of many for Marvel Spotlight. We talked about a lot of things here. So join us for our live chats anytime that we have a live stream. We'd love to interact with y'all and get your thoughts and answer your questions. But also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're still on the road to 300 subscribers. Didn't hit that at the end of 2023, but hey, we're still here. We're still kicking. Help and grow our audience by hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button as well if you enjoyed this pod review and if you enjoyed Echo, the mini series on Disney Plus, and hit that notification bell. That way you know the next time we'll be live. But also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Watchers Basement. We also want you to use the hashtag Watchers Basement when tagging us in memes, articles, things that you want us to check out. We'll be sure to do so, but use hashtag Watchers Basement. And lastly, while we do mostly video podcasting, you can check out our audio podcast available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe and be sure to give us a 5-star rating.
Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate it. So for Brittany, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a great rest of your day.
So
Bye-bye.
thank you for watching.